Hello, everybody. Today I will be taking you on our workshop of early writing. Early writing starts the first time a child's pen or crayon or colored pencil hits a paper. Their scribbles and drawing are their first attempts at their letter or their name is developing those early writing skills, and that starts with those fine motor skills and learning how to use their fingers to manipulate the materials. Early writing is really a way for children to communicate their thoughts and feelings to others. Writing can be an extraordinarily complex process for young children. It requires children to formulate their personal opinions and ideas and then translate them into written symbols that represent words they use in their oral language. This is a very demanding process, and it is both on a both emotional and intellectual level. So it's very important for educators and parents to be very supportive and celebrate their child's early writing attempts through their scribbles and inventive spelling, which will yield benefits in their long-term social, emotional, and intellectual development. Here we have a chart on the stages of early writing. On the top top left-hand corner, we start with drawing. When we come down here to controlled scribbling, where children scribble in rows across the page, left to right, top to bottom. Oh, I'm sorry. Down in the bottom left here, we have their random letters. Children are learning those letters at an early age and understanding that those letters convey meaning. Up on the top right here, we have the random scribbling, where children scribble and can say what their marks mean on the paper. Here we have letter-like forms, where they're using forms and familiar symbols such as circles and are still giving meaning to their writing. And then pattern letters, where children begin to use strings of unrelated letters, and sometimes letters from their name appear in these early attempts at writing that convey meaning to the picture. There are many opportunities for young children to explore early writing techniques during the earliest years in the classroom. It's so important for children's early literacy development, and there are many techniques that teachers use every day to support their students. Our group chose to focus on some of these techniques. The first one we decided to work on is the fine motor skills. There are very many ways to support fine motor in the classroom. Students do this each and every day. Developing that pincer grasp, these are some ways that you can help support your students. Lacing, coloring, cutting, using clothespins, small blocks, and beading. So if you can pause this video and go back to our presentation, find this fine motor and early writing page, you can click on our link and watch this great video on early writing and drawing. Another technique that we focused on is read alouds. Early reading is supported and improved by early writing. Young children need reading to help them learn about writing, and they need writing to learn about reading. This is where children's understanding of words that words convey meaning come from. Read alouds are so important at an early age, and giving your students the opportunity to have exposure to rich text. Read alouds are very important in the classroom. Children see and interact with print in everyday situations, and they start to understand that familiar print in their environment. This happens way before they start school. Parents can see their children growing an appreciation and enjoyment of print as they begin to recognize the words that rhyme, scribbling with their crayons, pointing out Legos and street signs, recognizing names of their favorite restaurants, or common signs that they see every day. This is helping to bridge that learning into the early writing, where children combine what they know about speaking and listening and what they know about print, and which is getting them ready to learn to read and write. This is part of why story sharing is such an important part of the classroom. Every time a child hears a story, they're gaining many skills related to writing, including story structure, understanding that there is a beginning, middle, and end, the idea that words convey meaning, how space divides each word. We like to use a spaceman or a finger space, and how authors' thoughts move throughout the story from page to page, as opposed to a journal entry where children are using one page to convey their meaning. A story really shows them how many thoughts can be put on multiple pages and go throughout a book. So here again, if you pause our video, you can watch these YouTube videos on the importance of read-alouds, as well as using read-alouds to build language with English language learner students. Another technique that we chose to focus on is bookmaking, which is probably my favorite technique as far as early writing in the classroom is concerned. I think it's really important to make a space for bookmaking in your classroom and teach students how to use the materials that they will need to make a book, and support their stories by having them talk through what they want to write about before they begin, giving them the materials such as the book, help allowing them and teaching them how to create their own books by either folding or using a stapler, and then giving them the materials such as markers and crayons and colored pencils, and helping them visualize by turning the pages in their blank story how their story will move from page to page to page, beginning to end. Bookmaking is project-based learning. It's very child-centered, allowing the child to follow their own interest in making books. Because books are so familiar to young children and they're used in the classroom all the time, bookmaking is a great way to bridge that learning between your read-alouds and their understanding of books through read-alouds to creating their own books. Art is definitely a child's language. They can really focus on composing stories through their illustrations and their symbolic writing, their early kid writing. And children know that books are a real form of published writing, and that a single piece of paper is not necessarily, as far as their compared to journal writing and bookmaking. Here are some things to remember when bookmaking with children. Children should be able to choose their topic and genre. Time and space is needed for children to create their stories. I think something that we emphasize in our classrooms is that an author and an illustrator don't do all of their work in one day, and understanding that it's a process and that children can also use time and space and ideas as they come up to create these stories, and it can be a project that goes over several days. Everything that for bookmaking should be easily accessible, and once children have created their stories, it's important to allow for revision in their stories. This can be done through conferencing. This can be done through observation. It's a great way to have an informal assessment of the child's progress as well. It's also very important to build in time to share and allow the students to really be able to share their work with their class and show the other students what they've done, and have them show pride in their work. and then exposing them to different genres and the parts or ingredients of a book, such as the beginning, middle, and end, the problem, the setting, the characters, focusing on the main character, and even going into some character traits. The next technique we've decided to focus on was emergent writing. This, again, is allowing students to share their stories or their journal entries. Obviously, the picture you see here is a child who is using those early writing skills and drawing skills. And it looks like the teacher has dictated their writing for them, which is a great way to help support early writing and emergent writing. You really should encourage students to tell the class or yourself stories about themselves when they're doing their journal writing or their book making, because it's really what they know best. So here again, if you pause our video, you can click on the YouTube video to watch some emergent writing practice. Interactive writing is another technique we chose to focus on. This really allows students to practice early reading and writing skills using time in the classroom, such as morning meeting, writing workshop, reading workshop, and math. Something I use in my classroom for interactive writing is the morning message and a morning question, which could range from their favorite color or their favorite food. And the morning message is really helping me fill in the blanks for the day of the week, the weather that we're having, and what special we're going to. Interactive writing is a very important process. It makes writing visual for the whole class. Reading literature is an excellent way to initiate interactive writing in the class, and the teacher can continue using literature as the class does interactive writing with any new book that's read throughout the year. The teacher shares the writing experience with young students by sharing the pen, using chart paper or a whiteboard that's large enough for the whole class to see, and students get to participate by giving the teacher ideas and also taking the pen and writing words, phrases, or sentences with the teacher's guidance. Older students in grades 1, 2, and 3 can participate in shared and collaborative writing as well. So if you take a second to pause our video, you can go back to the PowerPoint and click on these links for a guided writing practice versus an interactive writing practice. And we want you to just notice the difference between the two. One is obvious, interactive writing is the whole class experience. Guided writing is more of a small group experience, but seeing what the students are learning from these experiences. And then if you pause the video one more time, here's a video attached to the PowerPoint about teaching writing to ESL students. Something else we wanted to quickly focus on are early writing formal and informal assessments. So here you can see some formal self-assessments and some formal teacher assessments. In the early grades, a formal self-assessment like we have here is great for students to refer to and participate in, using the language of starting with a capital letter and making end marks to finish sentences and understanding that their words need to be on the lines, and using a space in between their words will really help them navigate this rubric, and using the smiley faces will also help them decide whether or not they've completed these tasks. The formal teaching assessment is a scale from 1 to 4, much more in depth as a teacher would be completing it compared to a student. We also wanted to emphasize the importance of working together and conferencing on these assessments. Here's an informal writing assessment idea. Having students write a story and assessing their ability to compose appropriate language, following the writing conventions, and addressing their writing task. We want to thank you for viewing our website workshop. We hope you enjoyed the presentation on early writing.